The fake young master is a green tea? What a coincidence, so am I. I'm a third-rate actor. I somehow transmigrated into a book, an infinite stream novel, becoming the biological young master of a trillion-dollar wealthy family. Just as the fake young master was about to stage his own fall down the stairs, I rolled away before him. Soon the whole family gathered around. I cried pitifully. Liam, I know you don't like me. Afraid I'll take your heir status. It's my fault. I shouldn't have come back. I'll leave right now. Facing the accusing looks from the family, the fake young master hurriedly defended himself. I didn't push you. You fell down by yourself. I hurriedly shouted. Liam, I know you hate me, but whether you push me or hit me, how could you slander me? Boo-hoo. Liam's eyes instantly flushed red. You said all my lines. What do you expect me to say? At the dining table, Liam said aggrievedly. George, Margaret, I know I have occupied Ethan's identity for 18 years. Now that Ethan is back, I should return this position to him. I'll leave right away. George hurriedly spoke. Liam, don't say that. Even if your brother Ethan comes back, our Johnson family will still treat you as our own son. Then Margaret also spoke. Yes, Liam, don't worry. No matter who leaves, you will never leave. You will always be Mama's good child. Elder sister Olivia hurriedly chimed in. Liam, don't worry. Your sister will always have only you as her one and only younger brother. Second sister Emma looked at me with a cold face. Ethan, it's all because you came back and made Liam upset. Hurry up and apologize to Liam. At this moment, everyone's gaze turned to me. I finally confirmed it. I fucking transmigrated into a book. And it's a serialized, angst-filled story I'm following. The male lead is the real young master in a fake young master, infinite loop novel. In the male lead's first life, he was taken back into the Johnson family. As a result, he was constantly framed and slandered by Liam. Liam has a monthly allowance of $100,000, while he only has $300. Every time Liam set him up, the male lead would be subjected to family punishment, either beaten or locked in solitary confinement. Finally, when the whole family took Liam on a trip, they forgot the real young master who was locked in the basement. And so the real young master was starved to death. The male lead was reborn, and it was his second life. He decided not to tolerate it any longer. On his first day back at the multi-billionaire family, Liam secretly recorded a video framing the male lead, showing him pushing him downstairs. When the Johnson family saw the video, Liam's acting exploded. He said he was afraid Ethan would come back and his family would stop loving him, so that's why he did it. The Johnson family softened and forgave Liam. The real young master flew into a rage, struck hard, and beat up the whole family, and threatened to post the video online, severing parental ties with the Johnson family. The Johnson family was greatly disappointed in the real young master. Left with no choice, they signed the agreement to sever parental ties. After the real young master left the protection of the Johnson family, Liam no longer pretended. He completely abandoned all restraint, his ferocity exposed. He paid a few ruffians and thugs and set a fire. He burned the true young master and his foster parents' entire family to death. And in the third life, the male lead fled as soon as he was reborn. Johnson's family searched the whole world for him, but Liam found him first. As expected, and yet unexpected again. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but shiver. Must never leave the protection of the Johnson family. Otherwise, out in the world, Liam has money and connections. There are 100 ways to ruin him. Huh, isn't it just acting? Me, a third-rate actor. Could I still lose to you a little green tea? At this moment, I met the gazes of the whole family. Tears immediately streamed down my face. Liam, it's all my fault. I didn't know that coming back would make you unhappy. I'm sorry, I'll leave right now, but... Tears fell from my eyes in big, heavy drops, making me look wronged and helpless. After all, I was born a Margaret after 10 months of pregnancy. Thinking of how I'd wandered outside for so many years, I must have endured a lot of hardship. She was instantly filled with a pang of heartache. Just as I turned around, Margaret hurriedly grabbed me. Her hand trembled slightly. Ethan, don't go. Her voice carried a barely perceptible urgency. Your father and mother finally found you again. How could we let you leave? You're just like Liam. Both are your mother's good sons. Elder sister Olivia sneered. Huh. You're really good at pretending. Do you think acting pitiful will make us pay more attention to you? Second sister Emma immediately put down her chopsticks and said discontentedly, Mom, Ethan is just a bumpkin from the countryside. How could he compare to Liam? Margaret glared at Emma. Emma, Ethan is your brother after all. How can you say that? Emma turned her face aside and snorted coldly. Of course he is, so poor and shabby. Even sitting here is an eyesore to me. Liam raised an eyebrow at me, his eyes full of provocation. George shot me a displeased look and delivered the final word. Enough. All of you shut up. Can't even behave at a meal. I didn't say anything more either. I took the hint and bowed my head to eat in peace. After the meal, Liam's eyes flicked and he spoke up of his own accord. George, Margaret, Ethan just returned and isn't familiar with the house yet. Shall I show him around? George and Margaret exchanged a glance, both showing approving expressions. Margaret patted Liam's hand. Liam really is sensible. Take your brother around and show him properly. Especially his room. I just had the servants clean it up yesterday. Liam smiled obediently. Don't worry, Mom. He turned to look at me. That trace of provocation was hidden even deeper in his eyes, but his tone was overwhelmingly warm. Ethan, shall we go? Huh, so he really did come. I set down my chopsticks, wiped the corner of my mouth with a napkin, and replied coolly, All right, then I'll trouble Liam. I followed Liam up to the second floor, but he didn't take me straight to a room. Instead, he spoke to me like the owner, explaining the layout of the second floor of the villa. Which room was his private dressing room? Which room was his piano room? So it really was to assert his ownership. We walked all the way to the stairwell on the west side. I pretended to be puzzled and said, Liam, weren't you going to take me to my room? Why did we come here? This place was far enough away from the first floor hall. He stopped pretending. This isn't a place you should come. You ought to rot away in the countryside. For the Johnsons, I'm the only young master, the heir to the Johnson group. His voice suddenly grew cold. Don't think that playing the victim just now will win you sympathy. As long as I'm around, don't you ever expect to gain the Johnson family's approval. Saying that, he suddenly collapsed down the stairs. But under my mocking gaze, I grabbed him just in time. I cried out in panic, Liam, I was wrong. Don't push me. I hauled him up and tumbled down myself. Liam was completely dumbfounded. He stood there dazed and stunned. My earth-shattering screams immediately drew the whole family's attention. They hurried over to check. They saw me tumbling down the stairs. Anyway, this body has done a lot of farm work and is pretty sturdy. But to make my act more convincing, I even deliberately banged my head against the wall at the corner. Blood trickled down from the temple, making it look particularly grisly. I clutched the wound on my forehead, curled up at the stair landing, shouting and screaming. The pain was real, but seeing Liam's face, like he'd seen a ghost, felt downright satisfying. Ethan! Margaret's scream pierced the ears. She stumbled over in high heels. Seeing my condition, she went pale and hurriedly helped me up. My Ethan! How did you fall like this? Tears streamed down my face. Liam, I know you don't like me. You're afraid I'll take your heir status. It's my fault. I shouldn't have come back. I'll leave right now. She suddenly looked up and stared at Liam on the stairs. Liam, what's going on? Liam only then snapped out of his daze and waved his hands frantically. It wasn't me. Mom, I didn't push him. He deliberately rolled off by himself. I wiped my tears away, my voice choked as I said, Liam, I know you hate me, but whether you pushed me or hit me, how could you slander me? Woo-woo. Olivia crossed her arms, looking at me with a face of disdain. Ethan, cut the act. How could Liam possibly have pushed you? I think you did it on purpose. Emma hurriedly chimed in. Exactly, Liam grew up under our eyes. He's so kind. There's no way he'd do something like that. Well then, Ethan, I didn't expect you to be so vicious, deliberately pushing someone down the stairs to frame Liam. George knitted his brows tightly and said to me sternly, Ethan, tell me the truth. What exactly happened? Hearing everyone speak like that, Margaret couldn't help but hesitate. The way they looked at me inevitably carried an extra hint of scrutiny. Ethan, could it really be that you deliberately pushed him and framed Liam? Seeing the scene before me, I couldn't help but feel a chill in my heart. Sure enough, my biological son couldn't compare to this adopted son. In the original book, when Liam fell down the stairs, the whole family had no doubts and angrily accused the original owner of being vicious, calling him a bad seed from birth. To teach the original owner a lesson, I locked him in the basement for 3 whole days. Liam's panicked expression from a moment ago vanished. His eyes grew triumphant again. I glanced up at the surveillance camera. In the original book, this surveillance had been destroyed by Liam before the original owner returned. I immediately cried even louder. Mom, how can you not believe me too? I'm your own son, after all, but I recorded everything just now. Liam's face went white in an instant. Before he hurriedly rushed down to snatch my phone, I immediately hit play. Liam's arrogant voice blared out at once. This isn't a place you should come. You ought to rot away in the countryside. As long as I'm around, don't you ever expect to gain the Johnson family's approval. Liam, I know I'm wrong. Don't push me. The whole room fell deathly silent. Everyone looked at Liam in disbelief. Margaret widened her eyes, an indescribable disappointment in them. She never would have imagined that the usually well-behaved, obedient Liam would say something so vicious. Olivia and Emma were stunned too. Recalling what they had just declared so confidently, it was a total smack in the face. How could Liam do something like this? I held the wound on my forehead and staggered to my feet, then forced a grin at Margaret. That smile was uglier than crying. Mom, do you believe me now? It's not that I'm trying to frame Liam. It's that he can't tolerate me. If none of you believe me, there's no point in staying in this family. I'm leaving right now. Margaret hurriedly hugged me, just thinking about all the hardships I endured outside. Back home, and still being bullied by Liam like this. An unprecedented wave of guilt surged up. Her voice was somewhat hoarse. It's Mommy's fault. Mommy should have believed you. Mommy is sorry to you. You're Mom's biological son. You're not allowed to go anywhere. I leaned against Margaret and shot Liam a provocative look. Liam blew a fuse, hopping up and down in a panic. No, it's not true. Ethan set me up. He did it on purpose. Enough. Margaret suddenly raised her voice and glared fiercely at Liam. His head was bleeding from the fall. And you still say something like that? Both of you are your mother's sons. How could you do something like this? Liam was so angry his face turned red. His knuckles whitened as he gripped the stair railing. But seeing the slightly disappointed looks on his father's and 2 sisters' faces, his heart clenched sharply. He hurriedly knelt down, tears streaming down in big drops. George, Margaret, sister, I'm sorry. I just love you too much. I was afraid that if Ethan came back, you would abandon me. So I did something like this. I won't dare do it again. I promise I'll get along with Ethan from now on. Sob, sob. I'm sorry to George, Margaret. I'm sorry to Ethan. Liam, why would you think that? Seeing Liam looking so aggrieved, Emma quickly went over and hugged him. No matter whether Ethan comes back or not, Liam will always be my dear little brother. Eldest sister Olivia saw Liam crying and felt heartache as well. She hurried over to comfort Liam. That's right, Liam, don't let your mind run wild. You've been the one by our side for the past 18 years. How could Ethan possibly compare to you? George smoothed things over. All right, Liam was just confused for a moment. Let's leave it at that, and no one mention it again. Margaret affectionately stroked my head. Ethan, since he already knows he was wrong, for my sake as his mother, will you forgive Liam this once? I know that, with what happened today, it's impossible to make the Johnsons completely give up on Liam. I obediently nodded. Liam only did that because he loves you so much. How could I blame him? Mom, I will definitely get along well with Liam and make him accept me. When those words came out, not only did Margaret Johnson, but also George and my 2 older sisters cast approving glances at me. Suddenly, they found me much more pleasing to the eye. Only Liam's eyes flashed with a trace of resentment. George handed over a bank card. Ethan, today's matter was Liam's fault. There's $1 million in this card. Consider it compensation for you. From now on, like Liam, you'll have $100,000 deposited to your card every month as pocket money. I immediately took it with a look of pure joy. Thank you, George. Actually, the wound on my forehead was only a superficial injury. But Margaret insisted on dragging me along to the hospital for a checkup. When Margaret half-supported me and shoved me into the car, I glanced through the window toward the second floor of the villa. Liam stared at me with a sullen expression. I secretly gave him the finger. His expression gradually grew fierce. The car had just driven out of the villa gates. Margaret rummaged in her bag for a pack of wet wipes and carefully wiped the blood from my face. Her movements were very gentle. When her fingertip accidentally brushed the scar on my forehead, she herself drew in a sharp breath. Does it hurt? It's all Mother's fault. I let you suffer too much over the years. I covered my forehead, and my eyes instantly filled with tears. Mom, how could I blame you? After all these years I couldn't be by your side. It's all because your son was unfilial. Sob sob. The more I said that, the more Margaret's heart ached. The guilt I had just suppressed welled up again before I realized it. She unconsciously tightened her hold on my arm a little, wiped away a tear secretly. After the hospital checkup, indeed there was nothing serious. They just applied some medicine and that was it. Margaret, seeing it was still early, had the driver take the car to the mall. Anything I set my sights on, she bought. Just one watch cost over $5 million. She really is wealthy, not even batting an eye. When I returned to the Johnsons with a brand new image, the whole family was stunned. Although my outfit was simple, it had a kind of understated luxury, especially when paired with a watch that catches and reflects the light. The whole person looks as if born with a natural air of nobility and nonchalance. The aura of a wealthy gentleman is instantly at full strength. Even the family's butler and nanny look at me with gleaming admiration. George stroked his chin, his eyes showing a hint of scrutiny and even more so, satisfaction. Not bad. Finally showing the makings of our Johnson family descendants. Liam was so angry his face went deathly pale. He turned and left. My two older sisters couldn't help but glance at me a couple more times. They considered Liam's feelings and said nothing, hurriedly going to comfort the fake young master. Margaret was also a bit anxious and hurried after them in 3 quick steps. What's wrong with this child, Liam again? George had witnessed everything that had just happened. Increasingly felt that Liam was petty, not a shred of the generous bearing of a wealthy gentleman. After all, he's not of the Johnson bloodline. That evening, Liam came and knocked on the door. Ethan, may I come in? Huh, so you're still not giving up. I opened the door, looking indifferent, and let him in. When he saw me, his face showed that pitiful, wronged expression. Ethan, I came to apologize to you. I was wrong earlier today. I shouldn't have treated you like that. If you still have any anger left, then hit me. After saying that, he swung his palm, intending to slap his own face. But I grabbed him tightly and held him back. Stop acting. I didn't record anything. Slapping yourself. Wasn't that just to frame me? He was seen through at a glance, but didn't care. Finally, he stopped pretending. He violently shook off my hand, took a half step back, his eyes full of resentment. Ethan, do you really think that as long as Mom treats you well now, you'll be able to hold your ground in the Johnson family? Keep dreaming. You think putting on a few nice clothes and wearing a name brand watch can actually make you a real Mr. Johnson? While you were eating wild greens in the countryside, I had long been traveling the world on my family's private jet. Do you even know what high society is? I raised an eyebrow. I don't understand. But I do know that a fake is always a fake. No matter how it's dressed up, it's still something unpresentable. Who are you calling fake? Liam looked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, all puffed up. He lunged at me suddenly, but I nimbly sidestepped and avoided him. Liam's center of gravity immediately faltered, and he bumped into the edge of the desk. The crystal ornament above fell to the floor with a crash, glass shards scattering everywhere. Liam looked at the glass shards on the ground and laughed. He crouched down to pick up a piece of glass, his gaze fierce. Ethan, do you believe me? I'm going to take this piece of glass and cut myself with it. Then cry to George and Margaret saying you did it. Who do you think they'll believe? I stared at the shard in his hand, stepped closer, my voice cold. By all means, go ahead and try. You think I don't dare? I grew up in front of George and Margaret. Even if they're disappointed in me, there's no way they'd really believe you. A bastard who just came back. Bastard. I stepped closer again, a mocking smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. I'm of the Johnson bloodline, and I've even had a paternity test. And you don't even know who your real parents are. So tell me, which one of us is the bastard? Liam completely lost it and lunged at me with a shard of glass. Go to hell. I didn't utter a word. I grabbed his wrist in one hand. With my other hand, I clamped tightly around his neck. I thrust him forcefully toward the window. More than half of his body hung out beyond the window. I squeezed Liam until he couldn't catch his breath. He stared at my cold, murderous eyes. The frantic expression on his face vanished, replaced entirely by panic and terror. Before I entered the book, I was just a third-rate actor. I play mostly action scenes and villainous murderers. If he wants a one-on-one showdown with me, wouldn't I handle him with ease? I gave a wicked smile and leaned close to his ear, whispering softly, My dear Liam, tell me, if I let go of your hand now, would you be killed from the fall? If you really die from the fall, will George and Margaret avenge you? Or will they protect me? He shook his head desperately, looking at me as if he were seeing a demon. Ethan, brother, I was wrong. Please, I'm begging you, let me go. A cold, vicious glint flashed in my eyes. I kicked the nearby desk, flying with one foot. The enormous commotion drew the attention of the whole family. Before long, I heard hurried footsteps approaching outside the door. I pulled Liam up and quickly switched places with him. The Johnson family were terrified the moment they opened the door. They saw Liam dragging half of my body out the window. In his other hand, he was gripping shards of broken glass tight. Blood dripped down Liam's arm. I shouted desperately, George, Margaret, sister, help. Liam has gone mad. He's going to kill me. Margaret let out a terrified scream. She lunged over and yanked me back from the edge of the window. She held me tightly in her arms, her voice trembling uncontrollably. Liam, are you crazy? What are you going to do to your brother? George's face went ashen as he pointed at the glass shard in Liam's hand. So angry his hands were trembling. Liam, you actually want to kill your brother? Eldest sister Olivia couldn't help feeling disappointed. She rushed over and snatched the piece of glass that Liam was clutching. She looked at my still shaken face, her brows knitting tightly. Liam, you went too far this time. Even if you don't like Ethan, you can't do something like this. Second sister Emma, however, stared at me fixedly, saying nothing. No, it wasn't me, Liam cried, his eyes reddening with panic. He glared at me viciously. It was him. Ethan framed me. He orchestrated all of this himself. At this moment, he looked insane, as if he wanted nothing more than to kill me. But the more he was like that, the more he seemed, in the eyes of the Johnson family, like a humiliated man angrily making excuses. I shrank closer into Margaret's arms, my face still pale and shaken. Liam, I know you hate me, but I really never intended to replace you. I was wrong. Please don't kill me, okay? Saying this, I couldn't hold back anymore, and tears dripped, drop by drop. Mom, I'm so scared. Margaret's heart broke. She patted my back, comforting me continuously. She looked at Liam with deep disappointment. Enough. Liam, you almost killed your brother just now. Do you know that? Even now, you're still lying. You really disappoint me so much. George stepped forward and raised his hand, slapping Liam. Smack! The crisp sound of the slap suddenly rang out in the room. Everyone was stunned. The two Johnson sisters were terrified. Liam covered his face and looked at George in disbelief. George, you hit me? You've never hit me since we were kids, and you actually hit me for that bumpkin? Bumpkin. George's chest heaved with anger. So you finally said what's in your heart, huh? He's your brother. He's a blood relative of the Johnson family. And you? Look at what you become now. Jealous, ruthless, and full of lies. How did our Johnson family raise a son like you? Those words pierced Liam like needles. He suddenly took a step back, his eyes burning red. You've always said since I was little that you love me the most, that you care for me the most. Now that Ethan is back, all of you have changed one by one. You've all been fooled by him. Ethan is a fraud. Emma hurriedly went to pull George. George, maybe there really is more to it. Liam is someone we've watched grow up. He's so kind. He could never do something like this. Shut up. George barked sharply. From today on, lock him in the basement. When he's figured things out, then you can let him out. Emma, panic-stricken, cried out, George. George shot her a cold glance. What? Do you want to be locked in there too? Emma fell silent and gave me a resentful glare. Liam tried to argue, but was escorted out by the butler Arthur Carter and the servants. He cried out all the way, it wasn't me, his voice growing more distant. In the end, he vanished at the end of the corridor. Ethan, if I find out you framed Liam, I will never let you off. Emma tossed that line coldly and turned away. Olivia, as she was leaving, looked at me with eyes that were somewhat complicated. The room fell silent again, with only my restrained sobs remaining. Margaret held me, overcome with pity. Ethan, it's okay now. Don't be afraid. With George and Margaret here, no one will hurt you again. George sighed, took a few steps toward me, his tone softening. Ethan, I'm sorry you were wronged. It's George and Margaret who didn't raise him right. After all, he's been with us for 18 years. He just acted foolishly for a moment. If he dares to hurt you again, George will certainly kick him out. Tears welled in my eyes as I nodded understandingly. George, Margaret, I know. After all, Liam has been with you for so many years. Everything is up to George and Margaret. George and Margaret looked at me with increasing satisfaction. All right, Ethan, don't think too much about it. Get some rest early. After George and Margaret left, my gaze gradually grew cold. The Johnsons really do favor the fake young master. I almost died at Liam's hands, and they just brushed it off so lightly. For the next while, I took advantage of the time Liam was confined, decisively bought off all the servants in the villa, 10 nannies, each given a $50,000 handbag, and the butler Arthur Carter's daughter needs chemotherapy every month and is short on money. I simply gave him the remaining $500,000. These servants became increasingly respectful toward me. Of course, it wasn't just because I had given them gifts. More importantly, on my first day at the Johnsons, I completely outshone Liam. And Mr. George and Ms. Margaret clearly began to admire me more and more. They naturally knew who following would offer a brighter future. All of these actions of mine were seen by Margaret. Not only was she not angry, she liked me even more. Worried I had no money to spend, she transferred another $10 million to me. As expected, a doting mother breeds spoiled children. This spending is much more generous than George's. I like it. What should you do when you have money? Of course, splurge. I went on a spending spree with my bodyguards and drivers. Eating, drinking, and entertainment. A full-service experience. At the end, I even bought each of them a wristwatch worth over $100,000. Now, whenever they see me, it's like they've seen the god of wealth. Called Mr. Ethan with every mouthful. She called him more warmly than her own father. What surprised me was that Liam was released after only 3 days. Of course I knew why. Emma begged George and Margaret every day. And besides, Liam had grown up in the Johnson household. George's heart finally softened, and he withdrew the punishment against Liam. But before letting him out, he gave Liam a severe scolding. He made it clear that he was not allowed to cause me any more trouble. After that incident, Liam behaved a lot more dutifully. Anyone who meets me will politely call out Ethan. Still, that glint of cruelty in his eyes didn't escape my notice. I thought he'd cause trouble at my birthday party, but he didn't. In front of all the upper-class dignitaries, George revealed the truth that I am the real young master of the Johnson family. It caused quite a stir. Until the end of the banquet, Liam behaved obediently like a quail. Until right before my university was about to start, he finally couldn't hold back. Butler Arthur Carter found me with a panicked look. Mr. Ethan, I just saw Mr. Liam sneak something out of Ms. Olivia's room and hide it in your bedroom. I took photos of it for you. Oh, what is it? I became immediately interested. He looked around, leaned toward my ear, and whispered mysteriously, It's Ms. Olivia's intimate clothing. Then he patted his chest and promised, But don't worry, Mr. Ethan. I've already had Martha Lewis secretly take it out and hide it in his own bedding. I immediately beamed with delight. The more I saw of butler Arthur Carter, the more I liked him. Nice work. Here's a reward. I immediately transferred $50,000 to butler Arthur Carter's account. I patted his shoulder and said, $40,000 is yours, and don't forget to transfer the other $10,000 to Martha Lewis for me. Butler Arthur Carter's grin nearly split his face. Mr. Ethan, rest assured, Arthur will take care of it. Don't talk about $10,000. As long as Martha Lewis is willing, I'll give her everything. After saying that, he didn't forget to give me a, you know what I mean, look. Holy crap, this Arthur is no ordinary guy. Look at him with that smug, flirtatious expression. That Martha Lewis probably won't be able to escape his clutches. Sure enough, by evening Olivia was furious. She loudly claimed there was a thief in the house and demanded a thorough investigation. Her personal undergarments would occasionally go missing, 1 or 2 items at a time. She didn't pay it much mind, thinking the nanny had lost them in the wash. But today, when she came out after showering, dozens of pieces of intimate clothing had all vanished without a trace. Yet none of the other valuable items were missing. Now it's obvious. The other person isn't just an ordinary thief, but a disgusting pervert. Emma was the first to rush out, and when she asked, her expression changed too, because she, on occasion, would also lose 1 or 2 pieces of underwear. Especially recently, the frequency has been particularly high. The atmosphere in the living room instantly dropped to an icy silence. Olivia trembled with anger, pointing at the servant and yelling, What are you standing there for? Turn this house inside out, every nook and cranny. Find it for me. If this filthy matter gets out, the Johnson family's reputation will be completely ruined. Emma's face went pale. She was clearly very angry. Olivia, I thought before that I had misplaced it, forgotten it, or the nanny washed it and lost it. Thinking about it now, someone definitely stole it on purpose. George sat on the sofa, his expression dark as his gaze swept over everyone present. There's no way anyone from outside got in. It must be an insider. Don't let anyone off today. Search every room. But Liam stepped forward, looking as if he wanted to say something but hesitated. Margaret had been very pleased with Liam's performance recently. She immediately took his hand and said softly, Liam, do you know something? Don't worry, just tell me. Don't hold back. Mom will definitely support you. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on him. Liam took a deep breath, as if making a major decision, and pointed at me. I saw Ethan go into Olivia's room today. So it was you. Emma glared at me, furious. You pervert. How could you do something so disgusting? You've completely shamed the Johnson family. Elder sister Olivia, who had finally started to warm to me, quickly wiped that goodwill away. So you're really from the countryside, yet we're your real sisters. How could you do something so disgusting? Margaret looked at me with uncertain suspicion. Ethan, did you really do it? I remained calm, my gaze falling on Liam, a faint smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. You say I went into my sister's room. Where's the evidence? You can't just, without any proof, pin the label pervert on me, can you? What a coincidence. I also saw you go into Olivia's room. Did you take those things? For the last sentence, I suddenly raised my voice. Seeing my vicious look, Liam shuddered in fear and hurriedly defended himself. No, I didn't. Don't slander me. I was just saying it casually. Why are you so nervous? Could it really be you? Everyone's gazes shifted back to Liam. He was so anxious his eyes were red. Enough! George suddenly shouted loudly. Whoever took it will be found out. No matter who it is, my Johnson family will never tolerate him. Butler Arthur Carter, take all the servants upstairs and search every room. Butler Arthur Carter respectfully agreed, and, with people in tow, went to carry out a perfunctory search. We sat on the sofa, waiting for Butler Arthur Carter's search results. Olivia and Emma stared at me coldly the whole time, as if they were convinced I was the one who did it. What a load of nonsense. Half an hour later, Butler Arthur Carter came downstairs with a large bundle of underwear, his face grave. Emma exploded, pointing at me as she cursed. Now, with witnesses and physical evidence all here, Ethan, do you have anything more to say? You perverted bastard. We never should have brought you back. It would have been better if you died out there. Liam looked at me with utter smugness, as if he were watching me being driven out of the house. Both eyewitnesses and physical evidence. I stood up and walked slowly over to Butler Arthur Carter. My fingertips lightly tapped the black plastic bag. Butler Arthur Carter, where exactly was this thing found? Butler Arthur Carter kept his head down, his voice steady. It was taken from Mr. Liam's bed, she replied to Mr. Ethan. What? Emma's scream cut off abruptly. She seemed as if someone had suddenly grabbed her by the throat, her eyes bulging wide. What did you say? From Liam's bed? Liam's smile froze on his face, and he abruptly stood up. Impossible. You're talking nonsense. Arthur Carter, the butler, were you bribed by Ethan? You clearly searched his room and found this, didn't you? Mr. Liam. Butler Arthur Carter looked up, a hint of wronged indignation on his face. We searched together just now. A dozen or so of us searched at the same time. So many people can testify. How could I speak carelessly? He stepped aside to make way, and Martha Lewis stepped out respectfully, immediately nodding. Yes, all of us saw it. It was indeed taken out from the blanket on Mr. Liam's bed. Liam went completely pale and shouted, Impossible. Absolutely impossible. You all must have teamed up to frame me. It has to be that. I teased him, watching slowly as I spoke. Liam, at a time like this, you still won't admit it. Perfect timing. I have some evidence on my phone. But he was pinned down hard by the bodyguard summoned by Butler Arthur Carter. It's not me. These are all fake. Ethan must be framing me. George, Margaret, you must believe me. But now no one was willing to believe him at all. The belongings were also found in his room. And on top of that, people remembered that he had pushed me down the stairs not long ago. Almost killed me again. Only now did they truly see Liam's true colors. Olivia was the first to snap. She grabbed the blue and white porcelain teacup from the table and hurled it at Liam. The cup skimmed his cheek, struck the wall, and shattered into countless pieces. You beast! I'll beat you to death. She lunged forward like a madwoman and tore at Liam's hair. Liam screamed and dodged, but was yanked away by George. Enough! Anger almost spewed from George's eyes. He never would have imagined that the adopted son he'd raised for 18 years would turn out to be such a thing. If he were allowed to stay in the house any longer, who knew whether his two precious daughters would be ruined by him? He pointed at Liam, his finger trembling uncontrollably. You beast! From today on, get out of the Johnson family. I, George, don't have a son like you. Margaret collapsed onto the sofa, her face ashen, muttering the words over and over. What a sin! Emma covered her face and cried aloud. She was the only one in the Johnson family who was closest to Liam. She never expected that the younger brother she had spoiled for 18 years would turn out to be a scumbag, a pervert. No matter how Liam explained, it couldn't change the outcome of him being kicked out, the moment he was dragged out by the bodyguards. He stared at me intently. Ethan, it's all your fault. Why did you come back? I'm the only young master of the Johnson family. Ethan, I hope you rot in hell. I will never let you off. Just you wait. Very good. That same day, I let that thug boss Jake Wilson know that Liam had been kicked out. That night, the bodyguard came in to report that Liam had been taken by Jake Wilson to an unfinished, rundown building. I wouldn't miss a thrilling scene like that, of course. I brought a dozen or so bodyguards and marched over in a grand procession. These bodyguards are all trained fighters. Not to say they could take on 10 at once. Just pull one out at random. Knocking down 3 or 5 small thugs is still no big deal for them. By the time we arrived, about 20 thugs with wooden sticks had surrounded us. A bald man, Terry Brooks, rushed out in a panic and shouted at the group of young thugs. What are you bastards doing standing around here? Huh. Hurry up and disperse. This is Mr. Ethan from the Johnson family. Quickly greet Mr. Ethan. I watched him with keen interest. Oh, you know me. Terry Brooks hurriedly nodded and bowed. Mr. Ethan, your Johnson family is the richest in Bay City. A while ago on your birthday, when the Johnsons announced the matter of the real and fake young masters, it trended on social media. I recognized you at a glance. I nodded, not bothering with small talk, and went straight to the point. I heard my brother is in your custody. Take me to see him. Terry Brooks' face changed drastically. Ethan, Mr. Ethan, do you have some kind of misunderstanding? Even if you gave me 100 doses of courage, I still wouldn't dare touch anyone from the Johnson family. My face darkened and I barked, Jake Wilson, don't you fucking try to fool me. Liam was kicked out of the Johnson family by me, and I was the one who had people leak the information to you. Is this how you repay me? Jake Wilson kept bowing and apologizing, hurriedly leading us over. After half a day, without seeing anyone, Liam had been tormented into a wreck. Not an inch of him unhurt. All 3 legs broken. He lay on the ground like a dog. When he saw me, the dullness in his eyes finally brightened a little. He crawled toward me, weakly pleading again and again. Ethan, I'm wrong. Please give me a quick end. I can't take it anymore. Not really. Sometimes living is more painful than dying, isn't it? Especially someone like Liam, who's completely ruined. My expression immediately turned cold as I snapped at Jake Wilson. Jake Wilson, you've got some nerve. Do you know Liam is my most beloved younger brother? I'll tell you, if my brother dies, I'll make sure you go with him. Jake Wilson was a smart cookie. His eyes flicked, and he immediately apologized sincerely. Mr. Ethan, I was wrong. I won't dare do it again. I absolutely promise your younger brother a long life. That's more like it. Liam, overcome with anger, let out a wah and spat a mouthful of blood. His eyes were fixed on me. I was very satisfied with my statement to Jake Wilson. I didn't even look at Liam, who looked like a dead dog, and left contentedly with a large group of bodyguards. After graduating from university, a few years later, George passed away as well. I successfully inherited the Johnson family's $100 billion fortune. Every time I walk past under the overpass, I can always see Liam lying on the ground begging. After all, he's my younger brother. If I can help, I still will. Every time I would toss him a US dollar, but instead of being grateful, he not only refused to appreciate it, he went crazy every time. It really breaks my heart. What should I do when faced with a brother like this? Waiting online, quite urgent. He's gone insane, AGAN.